Hey guys, welcome to the fitting video for the Brutix, the whole tank Brutix. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over the fitting and explain some of the different parts of it. Some of this, is probably fairly obvious. It's a whole tank. So we've got 4 reinforced bulkhead Tech 2s and the damage control here. Now this is going to change. The damage control currently gives you resists like that, like you see here, which comes down to structure, and it's a 60% resist. Now, in roughly a month from when I'm recording this, and probably a few weeks after I make this, CCP is going to change damage controls. Now, what they said is that the end effect will be the same, so it should be the same effective hit points, but the effect you get to your structure from the damage control is going to be reduced while the inborn resist to the structure will go up. So I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but I think they're going to give like a standard resist across the board to structure. Whereas right now, without a damage control, your structure has 0 resists. So that's one of the good things about the damage control. So a lot of times you see in a fight, you'll see the guy get to structure and then just disappear as if there was nothing in the structure. And that's the case. There's nothing there. So people who don't fit a damage control will see that they get to their structure and there's just nothing there. So it's going to change with the next patch or the next expansion, but I don't think it's going to change in the effective way. Practically, it will be the same. We got that out of the way. Now, for the propulsion, a lot of people wonder why I use the cold gas. Simply for capacitor. Now, we don't have, I don't think, the stats to do it, but you can see I've got 2 minutes and 29. You're not going to be running the Newt most of the time. 3 minutes and 32. Okay. Now, let's replace that with the Tech 2. 3 minutes and 10 seconds. But look at the velocity. 1352 versus 1341. That's a very marginal amount of velocity, but the loss of velocity is very much worth that extra little bit of capacitor stability. Because capacitor in this ship, you're going to find that cap is your weakness. That is, if you want to counter this ship and you see this ship coming through your space or something, the secret to countering it is capacitor. Get yourself a curse or just even a couple Tech 1 cruisers with medium newts. And that's all it takes to shut this thing down, because it has no ability to produce its own capacitor, right? Even if you switch this to a NOS, that would be, what, 3.6 capacitor. 3.6 capacitor is nowhere near enough to run this ship if you're under newt pressure. So keep that in mind. Your weakness is being neuted, which is why I often don't even like this energy neutralizer. Maybe it should be a NOS. If you find yourself having trouble with it, I know there's been a couple times where I wish it would have been. The reason I have it, and the original consideration that made me put it there, was the entire overarching theme of this ship, which I might as well talk about now. So you see you have a web and a scram. It's obviously a short-range ship. So the overarching theme of the whole tank Brutix is basically the strategy that I want to be able to dominate everything within 10 kilometers of my ship. If it's within 10K, whether it's a frigate or a cruiser or a destroyer, I love killing the T3 destroyers, because they go down real nice with this ship. It's the best target to kill. Or even maybe some battle cruisers. But typically, because you're fighting outnumbered most of the time, you want to take smaller targets. I fought a Deimos in this ship. I got absolutely smashed by the Deimos. Why? Our DPS output is similar. Mine's probably a little bit better. The problem is he can tank. He has an active tank that can tank pretty much all of my DPS for a while, until his AAR runs out, but long enough for him to whittle his way through me. So by the time I was breaking the Deimos and starting to put any kind of real pressure on his armor tank, I was already pretty much dead. So that's your weakness. You don't want to go up against another ship that, this isn't a 1 versus 1 ship. It's not its purpose. It's not meant for a 1 versus 1. For a 1 versus 1, get yourself a dual or triple rep Brutix, which is a whole another ball game. But this is a ship that you can fly without links, without implants really. Well, we'll show some of them. But without a whole lot of support or scouts. And you can go out there and it's got enough safety measures built in that you can force your way into some fair fights. Now, that said, you are going to get blobbed and you are going to die needlessly without any control over the situation. But it's also very disposable. I think after insurance, it's right around 30 to 40 mil per ship that you actually net out is 30 to 40 million ISK. So it's not that bad. So the overall strategy is to just absolutely control that 10K. That 10K radius around your ship is yours. Everything within that 10K dies. Everything beyond that 10K can't stop your micro jump drive, and therefore you can get away. So if you're tackled by a interceptor and he's orbiting you at 25 kilometers, you just align MJD and you're out. And that's why the MJD's there. MJD is your escape. It's your way to force them to fight you on your terms. And if you've watched any of my other guides or videos, you know that that's what I'm all about, is forcing your enemy to fight on your terms, not fighting on their terms. Don't fight on their station, right? If they've got obvious falcons all over the place, maybe that's not the best fight to take, even if you are bored. So that's the hard thing, is when you're bored, you tend to do things that you know aren't ideal. So on with the fitting. I've got Neutron Blasters. The reason for that is because I've got the room to fit them, and because they're going to give me the most range for whatever ammo I happen to be using. I don't recommend Void. For the majority of the time, you want to run Antimatter. Antimatter is going to track better, so you can kill the frigates better. Void is only against something larger. But like I said, mostly this is a frigate and destroyer killing machine, and you could throw in a few cruisers here and there. But the idea is that you jump into, say, a camp, like you'll see me do in some of the videos, and there's 2 or 3 destroyers there, or 4 frigates, or 5 frigates, and you kill as much as you can before you die. And if you kill enough to where there's no scrams left on you, you hit your MJD and you get out, right? So, and that's what the Neut's there for. Is the Neut, the idea of the Neut is so that I can be sure that I absolutely dominate that 10K. Because, you know, tracking isn't a problem. What you do is you just set your keep at to 3K. You set your orbit to 500, your keep at to 3K, and then whenever you're fighting a frigate or a destroyer, it's keep at 3K. That puts you at the edge of your optimal. So you're going to have enough range for your guns to track. Your web and scram's going to slow them down quite a bit. Even if they're an afterburner, it's going to slow them down pretty good. Now let's say that it's an afterburner or Dramule or something like that that's really hard to track. So in that case, you've got your Neut. And in that case, he's going to run out of cap and not be able to run his afterburner. And therefore, you're going to start putting distance between him and reducing your transversal velocity so your guns can track, and you're just going to smash him like in one shot once you finally get to tracking. Just smash him. I've seen it happen over and over in the ship. So that's why I have the Neut. And that's why I say primarily I want you to go out there and kill Tech 3 destroyers, Confessors, Fables. You're not going to get many Jackdaws because they're going to kite you. Hecates, you get some of those. So that's the whole idea. And I'll talk more about that in the tax video. I'll probably repeat all of this stuff, but it doesn't hurt to repeat it because, you know, it's pretty crucial. Whenever I've tried to fight something large with this, like the Deimos, a Brutix, I took Brutix 1v1, and I think I've done 2 of those. I just edged one out just barely, and that was probably not so much due to fitting as it was due to just overall SP skills and, you know, being able to put out more damage than he was. The other one I think I lost, Brutix versus Brutix. I'm not sure. I got medium transverse bulkhead 1s here. Now, when I first started flying this, someone asked me, why don't you use Tech 2s? The Tech 2s increase your cost quite a lot, and they don't increase your overall tank a huge amount. I think it takes you up to 92,000 effective hit points, which for the cost, you know, I want this ship to be pretty much disposable. If it dies, it dies. I don't really care. Not a big deal. I would even potentially consider a cheaper warp scram, and that's something coming up here. I'm going to have to change this fit. I may even change the video. After the next expansion in March, this is going to change its name. And I'm not sure if it's going to be as effective as it is now. I don't think so. I think we're pretty much after the change is going to have to switch this to a Tech 2, which means we're going to have to use an extra 8 CPU, and we don't have that 8 CPU. So I'm going to have to get that by making a sacrifice somewhere along the line here. But antimatter is your main ammo. I always carry null and void. I've almost never used null, and I don't think I have ever used null. I use void very rarely. There's been once where I accidentally had void loaded and not antimatter, and because of that, I missed out on a kill. I couldn't track the frigate or whatever. For drones, I've got hammerheads and acolytes. Now, I'm not really sure if that's the best way to run it. I tend to go for a higher damage because you're in that 10K. You want to use hammerheads the majority of the time. Even against frigates, I find that if you've got them webbed and scrammed, hammerheads are going to do more damage to them than a light drone. Mediums will do more than lights because tracking is no longer an issue at that point. So typically your mediums can do almost full damage. The acolytes, you know, you could change those out for some EC300s. I don't know if it's going to help you that much. One change that's happened recently that may come, that you're probably going to run into, because I'm seeing more Hicks, is now that Hicks, you'll see in some of my videos, I'm pointed by a Hick, and I still get off my MJD. Well, it didn't used to be that a Hick would stop an MJD. Now it does. I don't like that change, but now it does. So you see more Hicks as a result. So maybe that would be a good defense against a Hick, would be a flight of ECM 300s. It's a heck of a gamble, though. So let's talk about the implants real quick. I've got just pretty much random 1% implants here, and none of them are all that important. So let's expand it some. NN601 gives you 1% to velocity. Motion prediction MR701 gives you slightly better tracking. That's nice, 1% better tracking though, but it's very much marginal. The 3% here, MC803. Now that one I think is just absolutely crucial for any structure tank ship, including the Tyrannus and including this for sure. It's 3% structure, so 84,694 drops to 82,7. So that's almost 2,000 extra hit points from an implant that costs you, I don't know, I think they run around 3 million now. When I started buying them, they were 1 million, but they've gone up to 3 mil, I think. The SS903, that's a good one. The SS901 is an alternative, 3% to gun DPS damage. The HG1001 is just because there's nothing for the slot 10 really that's useful. So a lot of times I run this one, despite whether I'm a shield tank, armor tank, or hull tank. Very marginal, 100 extra tank. If you got it, use it. If you don't, it's certainly not required. The only one of these that I think you absolutely need is the MC803. That's the one I think it's worth the ISK. 3 million ISK, 3% more structure. It's really a no-brainer. Definitely get that. So finally, let's look at the stats real quick before we move on to the tactics lecture. Stats, we got 84,000 tank, right? Cap is mostly stable if you're not running micro warp drive, but if you turn on your new, it's slightly unstable. So this is typically how you would be in a fight right here. This is your fighting posture. And you've got 22 minutes, which should be enough, and it's actually going to be less than that because you probably have to micro warp drive to initiate, so it's going to be a little bit less. Sensor strengths 20, target rate 75, a little bit slow with the targeting at 250, scan res. 728 DPS, that's really nice. And actually, when you fit this, put the newt in between your guns. That way they'll will overload for just a little longer. So right now it's like 1 minute 11. If you put the newt in between, it'd go up to like 1 minute and 21 seconds as your rough overload time. It's not exact. There's random variance. But you can say that you'll probably get close to that in overload time. And so better to have a minute 20 than a minute 1. And I do overload them quite frequently in fights, as you'll see in the videos. You might as well, because if you look at the overload bonus here, overload gives you a damage mod, which is so much better than a firing speed, especially once you get that perfect tracking. You'll see in the Cameron video, I get some overloaded cycles off, I think, and it just nukes them, just blows the entire ship away. It's like almost a scene out of a movie where a ship just gets torn apart by one shot, right? So really cool. 84,000 hit points, 728 DPS output unoverloaded. Overloaded, you get that up to just over 800. This is assuming pretty much perfect gunnery skills. If your skills aren't so good, it's not going to be quite as much. Like my alt Kaloa, you'll see a video or two with him. That's very close to the same level. What does he have? Oh, I've since trained micro jump drive with him, so that's just not updated. All right, so velocity's not that good without the micro warp drive, but with it, it's functional. Your agility's terrible. Your warp speed's not very good at all. It's less than 3, so that's subpar. But that's the basic fitting. In the next video, we're going to talk about tactics, and that's what I've already I just couldn't resist. I went ahead and told you pretty much the basis of the tactics, but we'll do it in a little bit more of a better way with some drawings and stuff in the next video.